Greetings to all the amazing people watching and listening to this. Welcome to CHEZUBA Talks, a podcast dedicated to sharing compelling stories of hope, determination, and humanity. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful discovery of the human spirit. I'm Tej, your host, and with me today is Renee Beeker, the founder, president, and director of the non-profit National Family Court Watch Project. Renee has been a speaker and an advocate for reform of the judicial system since 1996. She authored Eyes on the Family Court, creating an effective data collection instrument, which was published in Family and Intimate Partner Violence Quarterly, summer of 2019. Renee has also designed a comprehensive court-watched observational instrument currently used in the National Family Court Watch Project. She serves on various committees, both in her state and nationally. Welcome, Renee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the NFCWP, the National Family Court Watch Project, is the first known program to use a standardized observational instrument nationwide.
So far as I know, yes.
Right. So could you just tell us a little more about what you are doing?
Okay, well, a very long time ago, it became quite aware that there were a lot of issues within the family court system, especially for women who were victims of abuse, who were unable to protect themselves, and in many cases, their children. I realized way back there, 1995, we had no real court watch for family law. There's criminal court watch, but nobody was watching a family court. It appears to be sort of a court system that is doesn't really like the idea of the public being involved. So I started out actually speaking around the country to teach people to do court watch, to develop a court watch. And what I found was a lot of different court watch programs for various things, not just family. But what I found is that they didn't want to watch the same data points. My epiphany was we need to be looking at the same data points in every jurisdiction around the country in order to have a really good understanding of the trends, because it's not just in one state, it's everywhere. It's systemic. And so after all the work of running all over the country, speaking at conferences to get people to do a court watch, I said, we're just going to do this. And so not everybody wants to do the project we have. Some really would like to have a court watch to support victims who are in court, which I understand, or they might be wanting to work towards removing a particular judge from the bench. So they spend a lot of time observing in order to write complaints. I call our court watch for research. The goal is to collect the data and publish, like we did the first article, Eyes on the Family Court. My purpose for that was just to introduce the idea of a standard instrument being used to collect the same kind of data points, no matter which jurisdiction we were in, no matter what state. And so I don't know any other organization that's court watching that's using the same instrument nationwide.
Wow, that's amazing, and a very systematic approach there, because you have researched and you have found out that this is a standardized measure of how you go about every court.
Right.
So tell me, your job right now is basically just observations and then publication, right? So you have... sorry.
It's okay. We're actually working with I'm actually working with grad students. So we have an extern program with University in New York, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and students in sorry, I can't remember the exact program, but they actually want to be on this project. And so they will work with, we're actually starting this week, they will work on this project for 15 weeks throughout the semester, observing courts and collecting data. We also are doing another silent project that will help add some context and more information to what we're putting together. So we're working with students mainly because there's a large concern of having just anyone working on the project due to bias. So if an individual is involved in a court case, we cannot have them involved in observing the courts.
Right. So when we have grad students coming in, there is some sort of authentic, people attending the court. But otherwise, do you face any, I won't say hostility, but would you face any kind of challenge in terms of attending court from either the legal system or the parents or the people who are affected?
Well, the court is open to the public. The family court records are public record. I can go right online, pretty much every court place except for Texas. Texas seems to be a little bit of a stickler. But I can go to the local courthouse, and if I have a name or a number, I can look up the case docket and information. I can look through that docket and see what days they were in court, what they were in court for. So it's public record. And yes, we're very careful with individual data. We don't publish people's names or any of that. This is just looking at the environment. And one of the snapshots we watch is how many people are represented by an attorney, because legal representation is extremely expensive, and your upper middle income levels have a hard time paying for individuals to represent them in court. It's costly, and so many people are going in court unrepresented, and so we're just capturing all of this information in order to disseminate it, to see what kinds of things we can do to solve that. One would be, we need to provide lawyers to the civil court litigants. The idea that the civil court, you have to defend yourself when you have so much at risk: your child, your income, your home, your property, in order to divorce. So that's not something you should go into court alone on, and yet the vast majority of people are.
Right. So once you have followed up on, do you follow up on a particular case, or is it just an observational mode?
We do not to say that we couldn't. Money is the issue. If there was something that we saw that was, and we've sent a letter to a chief judge, and we've seen things that we were concerned with, but we haven't followed up on a particular case. And it's strictly because if we saw something really, we would love to, but it's really about money. We really operate on a shoestring. Virtually everyone on our project donates their time and their expertise. No one is paid in our nonprofit. There's just no money for that.
Right. So would you say that your nonprofit has seen tangible results as a result of your observations?
I don't know about serious result, not yet. It's slow. And in many ways, I've seen the system worse than it was when we started. So it's slow. It's just very slow. When we first started out, we were in the court physically. We had 46 volunteers walk into courts in 6 separate states, and not one was ever asked to leave. Since the pandemic has prevented, really initially they shut the courts down, and virtually we've had a very difficult time getting in. So 2020 was difficult. 2021, last year it started, this year, the 21 and 22, it's gotten a little better, where our students are able to virtually observe, but for much of it, we were essentially locked out. And we actually wrote an article, Access to Justice Through the Eyes of an Advocate and Court Monitor, for the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And I wrote that article so that they could see sort of the two sides of this, where if the court is open and we're able to walk in without an issue, why is it they're making it more difficult when we're virtual? And so I think that asking me to write that article, they're noticing that. So we're having better luck getting in to observe, but we've observed over 1,000 cases, and we have more to write, but we haven't seen change based on what we're doing or from the data that we've shared per se. But that's not to say that the court system doesn't realize they might have problems.
Right. No, I'm sure there will be some kind of recognition, some sort of acknowledgement there, and some change that you want to see.
Sure.
I just think it's a slow process.
It's very slow. Very, very slow. Yes.
So, Rennie, tell me, do you have any external partners or, corporate people who are able to share in your thoughts or in your beliefs? And are they able to support you in some way?
We do not have any corporate support monetarily. We did receive a very generous donation last November from a woman who her name's Dr. Oh, maybe I better not say her name. I don't know if it's safe, but at any rate, it was a generous donation. She said she'd been watching our work and wanted to help support it. We do not ask for, nor have we applied for any grant funding purposefully, because we would like our voice to be our voice and not that of someone who's funding the work. So everyone on the board basically gives their expertise and time, and it really comes out of our meager funds that we have to publish, pay for, the few things we do have to pay for, and so we're making it okay. It would be grander because we've been asked by others in other countries that they would love to see something like this in their own country. But it takes money to jump the pond, if you will, and wind up in Europe or Australia or Canada. But I've had discussions with people who would love to have a program like this in their country.
Right. That's beautiful, because in a democracy, I believe that everybody has the right to know what exactly is happening with their case. Wonderful. So, like you say, what is the staff count at the moment with you?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
So you say you're few people operating this. So
yes, we are. We have no staff. I'm the staff, but I have a board, obviously. So I have 2 attorneys, a couple of engineers, a business owner, who are all sit on the board, and they donate to help keep us above board, to pay just the few things we have to pay. I mean, some tech support, obviously mail, that kind of thing. But no, I think what runs us is the passion that everyone involved in this program feels and wants to see the change happen, so that especially children are protected from being harmed, murdered, abused, that kind of thing, because a lot of that's happening. It's kind of scary out there.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So, CHEZUBA is a platform where you have volunteers, and they could be online. So if you have any requirement for volunteers, you could address this here.
One of the things that is critical is that they have not been involved in any kind of family court. And the other thing is, I typically, for the program that we operate with the interns, is I teach them an awful lot before I let them go into court. So it's essentially a class, if you will. For someone who wants to volunteer, they would have to learn a lot about how the process works. We're not lawyers, or at least I'm not, but I understand the courtroom procedure and process. And then my counterparts who are attorneys can, pick out instantly due process issues or things that we're greatly concerned about. Perhaps a litigants in court that has a pickup order, but the judge doesn't have them arrested. That would be seen, right then. But our volunteers really need to understand courtroom language, the process, the procedure, and the instrument is 700 and some odd questions long. So there's a lot that you're not going to see in every case, but it's there in case it happens. So there's a lot to digest. It takes a moment.
Right. So to all the volunteers who are applying, people who are really interested in the legalities of family courts would be appreciated. You also would need somebody for your social media, for running your website.
I would love that. It's just the time, the amount of time it takes just to operate a nonprofit prevents me really from scouring the news, to keep up certain things on our blog, or I just don't have the time to do all that. So yes, certainly we could use a volunteer who would want to engage in helping us with our Twitter, our I manage the Facebook pretty well, but yeah, those things are needed and helpful. We did just have our website rebuilt, and we have a new process that will be able to allow our students to observe courts and then go in, have access to the back door and enter data in almost real time. So that would be wonderful. Eventually, someday, maybe courts will let us bring our tablets in, but right now they won't.
All right, wish you luck with that. And on a parting note, if you could just tell us about some interesting story or a memorable case that you had, and you feel that your presence there made a difference.
Okay, yes. I had a Catholic minister call me and say, I have a parishioner. She's got to go to court tomorrow. She thinks she's going to lose her children. And I said, you're going to go with her. And he said, why? And I said, because when they see you standing with her, they will not take her children. And he called me up after that hearing and said he doesn't believe in anything but God, but that I was right about everything that took place. She ultimately did lose her children, but that day she did not.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sure that remains in your memory clearly. Wonderful, beautiful. Renee, thank you so much. Would you like to share your social media handles here?
Sure. It's the National Family Court Watch Project, and you can just use the capital letters of each one, but that's where we are. And we're also on Facebook and Twitter, or you can follow me, Renee Beeker. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I'm everywhere. You could find me. Just type in my name and you will find me. And thank you very much for having us share our story with you.
Thank you very much. You are doing good work, and we wish you all the luck and success ahead.
Thank you.